guys, welcome to my YouTube channel today. My name is Toyin. Please comment, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to be notified when I post great content. I need a better intro than the one I've got at the moment because it needs a bit more je ne sais quoi, because right now it sounds really flat. But anyway, I digress. Today I'm actually going to be talking to you guys about toxic friendships. I'm going to be talking to you guys about networking events, and I'm actually going to be talking to you guys about focusing on what is actually working for yourself, if you're branding yourself as a person or if you're branding yourself as a business. Okay, so the first topic of the day is obviously toxic friendships. The reason why I'm talking about it is because I was obviously triggered by a phone call that I received last week. So basically, somebody that I was really close with called me. I didn't know who it was because I didn't recognize the voice. I didn't recognize that she called me from a withheld number. So I've obviously picked up the phone, answered it, asked like, who's this? She turned around and said, oh, my name's X, Y, and Z. I'm like, oh, okay. And my thing was, like, we obviously had issues in our friendships, and I felt like where me and you was very close, I just thought that certain boundaries were crossed, and obviously she's obviously apologized. We've moved on. We've rekindled our friendship after the fact, and then she done something else, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna cut this friendship. This is just really not what I want to be kind of indulging in. And I've realized, like, even when I had the conversation with her, it made me realize that sometimes when your past comes knocking to kind of rekindle a friendship, and this is just talking about friendships, to rekindle a friendship, sometimes you have to sit back and assess why your friendship broke down in the first place. And I think 9 times out of 10, because she's not the first person that I've obviously had friendships with and it's kind of dissolved. And I thought to myself, 9 times out of 10, when you have a friendship with someone and it doesn't work out the first time, it's not going to work out the second time. It's definitely not going to work out the second time. Sometimes it does. It all depends on obviously what the reasons why your friendship kind of dissolved. But I tend to find the same triggers and the same issues always find a way of surfacing back up to the top. And yeah, it's just so not for me. So I would encourage people not to rekindle friendships from your past, especially if it wasn't a mutual benefit to both parties. Do you know what I mean? I think that when you have friendships should be mutually beneficial to both parties. So if we're both listening to one another speak about whatever we're talking about, then that's what it is. Be it work, home, domestic life, anything like that. There's no point rekindling friendships with people that didn't work in the first place, because when you try to spin it round and try to make it work again, the same issues will obviously reappear itself. And I had another issue with, I didn't have another issue. I had a friend that I kind of rekindled with. And then when I started speaking to her and stuff, and I just thought to myself, do you know what? This kind of friendship doesn't seem like it's kind of going anywhere. It seems a bit, how can I put it without being rude? It just sometimes, every year you're supposed to try to do better than the year you left behind. You need to make some sort of progress. It could be the most smallest things, but at least you're trying. And then I remember I was speaking to her and it was just like no progress. Like, it's just the same stuff that she was doing a year ago, 2 years ago. I don't know. I think I'm a sort of person, I'd like to be around like-minded people like myself. I find it very hard to kind of well, I can relate to any and everybody's. That's not right. I can relate to any and everybody, but I tend to find myself more time I'm by myself. Like I have a handful of friends. Yeah, I can count 5 friends on my hands. I don't have a big selection of friends. I'm telling a lie. I don't even have 5 friends. I have 3. So it's like, as you get older, you realize friendships are important, but you need valuable friendships. Friendships that are assets and not liabilities. That's what I've realized. And you have to have discernment on who you allow in your circle. Because I can't just be, I'm very like this and it's really bad. A very sociable person. When it comes to work, very sociable, everything else like, but sometimes I just like to be by myself and just to chill, read a book, drink coffee, and that's it. Like, I don't really like to do much, to be fair. So that's the reason why I brought that up, because I just thought to myself, I'm not rekindling any friendship from my past, because I tend to find through experience that it doesn't go nowhere, end up hitting the same block roads. And you know what, I'd rather be by myself than to go through unnecessary stress that I don't really, unnecessary stress and unnecessary drama that I don't need to. I prefer peace over drama any day. So yeah, so that is one of the reasons why I obviously brought up the toxic friendship thing. And it applies to business as well, really, because you want people in your circle, you want people in your energy that vibe the same way you vibe, or they are on the same kind of wavelength. You're both on the same page. You know, it's hard when you are with individuals that you've already gone past point B and you are at point M, but they're still at point B. Sometimes you've got to cut people off. And I've realized in order for sometimes for you to really progress, to get to where you need to get to, you need to cut people off and focus on what you have to do. Like, yeah, I don't have no time to chill. I don't have time to go out. I don't go out anyway because I don't really find that fun. But do you know what I mean? Like, those things going out, all those things don't shake me no more. When I'm maybe in my younger days, yeah, but now not so much. So I think as you get older, you need to be more discerning about who you allow in your circle. Not everything is about. You just need to have better discernment as you get older, because what happens, you keep on repeating the same old cycles if you don't have discernment and you don't have like-minded people around you. Yeah, that's what I think anyway. I might be wrong. Everybody's each of their own, but that's how I am. If it's not mutually beneficial at work, home, or anything of that nature, I'm just not going to entertain it. Not going to entertain it whatsoever. I think as I've got older, I've got more discernment. I just don't allow anybody in my little circle. Just saying that you just need to have more discernment. And sometimes when a door closes on a friendship, sometimes when a door of a friendship closes, of the knowing that, you know what, something better will come, a better friend will come. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes friends are for seasons, as they say. Anyway, the next topic I obviously want to talk to you guys about briefly is, I obviously want to talk to you guys about networking events. The reason why I brought networking events up is, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, you will be either invited to a lot of networking events, or you would go to a lot of networking events. And my personal opinion on networking events, it's a pointless exercise. I think networking events are a pointless exercise because more time, the people that actually come to these events are they either want to get a free food, free drink, or they're encouraged by their business and it's not something that they actually want to do, but they just go there for going their sake. Obviously the whole point of networking is to actually meet people and actually to get something out of that kind of communication or that networking experience. And from my experience and from what I found, network events are absolutely pointless. The best way to, I do believe, to network with people is socially. You can obviously do that online now. I think in a social setting or essentially online, because people are a bit more receptive, and sometimes you don't necessarily need to go to the head honcho that you want to speak to. Sometimes you might need to go through 3 or 4 people in order to get to the person that you obviously want to eventually speak to. That's what I found, and I think that's obviously the best course of action. Sometimes if you do approach people directly, sometimes they're happy to speak to you, but more time it's easier for you to be introduced by a familiar person, because it makes it so much easier. The boundaries have already kind of been lowered, so it's easier for you to kind of speak to that particular individual. Whereas if you go to them directly, more time they might turn around and rebuff you and turn around and say, no, can you speak to my PA? But if you speak to, say, his mate, do you know what I mean? If you speak to someone on a social setting that knows the person that you essentially want to speak to, it makes it so much easier for the introduction to be made than if you were to go to them directly. So, for example, you want to meet the head honcho. In order to meet him, sometimes it's better to go to, say, his friend or someone 3 or 4 pegs lower than him that could potentially give you that introduction to make it easier for you to speak to that person. I've had that many times, and that's obviously helped me, because obviously I am a sort of person, I used to be the sort of person, I used to go straight for the king, but you don't do that. You have to, sometimes it depends on the person, because some people are very warm and receptive, other people like, no, speak to my PA. So if you are obviously introduced, it makes life so much easier. I've obviously gone directly to the head. They'll be like, hey, how did you get here? Speak to my PA, because that's just me. And I realised, don't do that. Get introduced. Once you get introduced, the person is more likely to speak to you. But sometimes it's worked for me. I've gone straight to the head person and be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can talk. Do you know what I mean? So it all depends on the person at the end of the day. The last thing I want to talk about is focusing on what works for you. And I'm saying it as a business owner and through trial and error. I've had so much trial and error. But as a business person, I'm saying that it's very important in life that you focus on what is working for you on your business. Just because something works for somebody else doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. So you need to focus on what's working for your business, hone on that, and amplify that tenfold. Do you know what I mean? When you start coming out of your lane and focusing on what somebody else is doing, as opposed to focusing on what you know is working for your business and getting you that traffic, that engagement, themselves, whatever it may be, that's what you need to focus on and amplify that tenfold. But when you start focusing on what somebody else is doing, it can basically steer you right off course, and you having to start again. So all I would say to all business owners and entrepreneurs out there, focus on what you are good on, hone in on that, and amplify that tenfold. That's it for today, really. What I would say to you guys is please comment, like, and subscribe, as I normally say. Share the content, and most importantly of all, follow, like, subscribe, hit that notification, share, and stay tuned, because it's going to be Caffeination Week. Bye.